What's up, guys? So the reason why I say not to glue the strip to the edge of your blade until you're done painting everything is because in the video I did not realize that for the LED strip I had completely taken off this part, which if you leave this part on and let's say your strip is glued to your blade, you won't be able to fit this big chunk into the hole here. That's not going to fit. So what you want to do is paint everything first and then do your blade stuff last, which means that once your handle and everything is painted and ready to go, you're going to thread your LED strip through in the right direction, okay? And then once you have it threaded through, then, right, this is locked here. So then now you can go ahead and glue it to your edge, put the masking trim and all of that good stuff. So that's just a quick little heads up for you guys, just in case you're wondering why it's not working out for you. And if anything, if you did already glue it and you're watching this, if you're lucky, this just kind of slides out of the way, so you can just cut it out and then this will fit in normally. If for some reason this does not slide out of the way, you can still cut this out. You can grab an X-Acto blade and very carefully from the side just kind of make multiple slices until you've kind of put a split in it and you can just crack it open. You can even put it back on when you're done and just stuff this area with a little bit of hot glue and just slide that back in, because this is meant to protect the leads here so that as you stuff your wires inside of your hilt, this doesn't bend and mess up your solder points. So you don't have to use this piece if you don't want to, but it is highly recommended. All right, I hope that made sense and that solves some of the issues that people have brought to my attention as far as putting the kit together, which is a fairly simple one and an unfortunate oversight on my part, but hopefully this addresses the issue. And with that out of the way, what's up, guys? Cass here from GiveWave Studios. And on this one, what I'm going to show you guys is basically how to add etch details to your DIY kits for the light up blades that I sell. So for example, doing the Zenitsu lightning in the middle here. For the DIY kit, you're going to receive a laser cut template. This one just happens to have this still stuck into it, so you can just pull that out if it comes with it. You're gonna grab your blade, so it's gonna come with the protective casing here. So what you're gonna do with this at this point is leave the protective casing on, okay? Because this is one of the few blades that you don't have to sand the entire surface. You're gonna want your clear stuff to stay. So you're gonna leave your tape. You're gonna grab your stencil. You're gonna choose which direction you want it to go. So let's say that this was my blade tip and I want the lightning moving this way. So I'm gonna make it so that it's progressing this way. I'm gonna pick where it is that I want it to stop. I'm gonna go ahead and put my template and I'm just gonna trace that on. You can do this with a fat marker, it'll go a lot faster. And once you have this laid out, you're just going to repeat the pattern all the way to the end of the blade, okay? Once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to this piece for the example. Okay, so we're gonna pretend this is our blade, and with that done, I'm gonna grab an X-Acto and I'm gonna cut out my lightning. Okay, so after you've cut all of your lines out, you go ahead and grab your blade and just kind of lift the lightning portion, and we're just going to remove just this portion. Alright, and now that we have our lightning revealed, what you're going to want to do is get a piece of sandpaper. Don't get something that's too gritty, maybe like 600 and up grit, and make sure that your small edges are stuck very nicely, because now what we're going to do is try to sand the clear part and rough up the clear part that's exposed to kind of etch the lightning onto your clear acrylic. You can also do this with an X-Acto blade and just kind of like scratch the surface. It's going to give a different look, so it's up to you and the tools that you have available how you want to do this. Fast forward. Alright, and with that done, you'll remove that layer once you're done completely with all of your lightning, leaving you with a nice detail. And if I were to plug in some lights real quick, as you can see, the lightning is showing up inside of the acrylic, which is exactly what we want. So it makes it so that this is the only part that lights up. Once you're done with this step completely, you can definitely, let's say that you wanted some more details, you can go in and add some extra stuff here and there with like the tip of your X-Acto blade. You can really customize it and get like super detailed with it. So this is just one of those things that the more you work on it, the better it's going to look. Okay. Once you've fully done one side, you're gonna go ahead and flip your blade. Also make sure to flip your pattern. Okay. And whenever you start doing your etch, make sure that the edges line up. So if I start this at the back, I make a touch here, I make sure it's centered, okay, and this should be the exact same dimension width as the blade, so it should line up on the edges. Just make sure it touches the back, and then just bring this forward, do your thing, bring this forward, do your thing, and at the end of the day they should line up front and back. So just make sure that you start from an edge as opposed to how I started here, which is the front, because that's going to help you make sure that both sides are aligned when you flip your sword to do your other side. As far as assembly, everything is the same as the first video, minus the little part that I told you guys about the lights going in first through your suba or guard, and then doing all of this stuff. So for example, now if we're doing something that's more Darksaber from Mandalorian, this version for example, you want to take the tape completely off of your blade because you want to sand the entire thing first, because what's going on with this one is almost the reverse of the Zenitsu blade. We are sanding all of this, and then we're just masking everything else that we don't want to see. So very similar. So for this pattern, there is no template really. You just want to look up, you know, like a cracked pattern or a lightning pattern, and just kind of like draw it on your sword on the entirety of the thing. Okay, done with that. I basically cut this piece off so it's easier for you guys to visualize a straight line. Now, with this done, remember, unlike the Zenitsu example, for the Darksaber, you need to sand your blade completely before you start this step, okay? When we have this is kind of version 1 of how to do this. So with this one, we left the lightning, but we took out the chunks, okay? So you should see, you know, your blurry chunks. It's clear here because I didn't bother sanding it for the explanation. You should see your blurry chunks. And what you can do at this point is you can grab some spray paint and you can paint this. So this is already masked. You can paint the whole thing black. That way, when you remove the tape, all that's left is your lightning pattern and you're good to go. You can also paint this by hand also if you don't want to spray paint it. the end of the day, it's a DIY kit. You guys do whatever you feel comfortable with. So that's version 1 of how to do this. Version 2 would entail almost the opposite, and I will tell you why. So for the second version of this, keep in mind that when you receive your DIY kit, you only get enough of the masking material to do your edge. I don't send enough to do the entire blade because most of the kits don't require it. So for these guys, it's just a little bit more work that's needed. And if you want to kind of take it to the next level and do something similar to what I've done here with the tint film, you can grab some of this on Amazon. I'll have links in the description. And basically, instead of using masking tape, just use your tint film, using some black vinyl, metallic vinyl here as an example. But hopefully this gets the point across. So you'll put your film down. Okay, so with the pencil on the black, your lines are going to be barely visible. And now you're just going to go ahead and cut around your shapes. And this example, unlike what we did on the reverse side where we took out the big chunks, here we're going to take out the lightning chunks. Why? Because the bottom is already sanded, our top surface is already the black that we wanted to, so now all we need to do is reveal the lightning. Okay? Okay, and now our lightning pattern is revealed. We don't have to worry about any painting because the parts that are masked are already the black that we would have wanted it to be. Okay, and that's how you get this result that you guys see here. And you can just look up any dark saber image on Google and basically replicate that pattern onto the entirety of your blade and do one of the two examples that we just covered here. And so with any of the techniques, the one that we did first here, the one that we did in the back, or the one that we did for the Zenitsu blade, you can also accomplish all sorts of really cool stuff. This one, for example, is kind of like a shattered glass look. That's from a Netflix series called Scissor 7. You can use a ruler to get some really straight lines and do some techie circuit board type of steampunk looking futuristic lines on your stuff, and get really super creative with it because it's really fun with doing the edge lighting stuff. Alright, so a few honorable mentions just in passing. So these kits get assembled more or less the same way. They have a bottom plug, okay? They have a guard, they have a handle. The only big difference with this one, the Rose's quartz sword from Steven Universe, is you're going to make sure that where this little tab is here lines up with this tab here. Okay, regardless if it has this piece or not, depending on if you got the physical buttons or the remote control buttons. Once you have that lined up, you're going to turn it around to the other side. You'll notice that this has the teeth that match up with the grooves here, this decorative groove, and you're going to find where that sits properly, and it kisses the edge of this and lines up exactly on here. And you're going to make a mark. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I already have a little Sharpie mark here so that you know where that goes. Take it apart. You're going to assemble this piece. Okay, glue it with the epoxy, 2-part epoxy. You could do hot glue, don't recommend it. It's not going to be very strong, but it is possible if that's all you have. And then follow tutorial part 1 for how to assemble the rest of this regularly, because the rest of the assembly is exactly the same, minus those two pieces. Okay, next one is Zenitsu DIY kit. This one is even easier than the others because it does not come with a guard. It's just handle to sword, just like Best Boy likes it. And of course you have your plug here, and the only thing that makes this different, again, follow part 1 for how to put everything together, and you're going to glue it the exact same way. Only difference with the Zenitsu sword is that it does come with a bolt and a nut, and you can use this to reinforce, secure, or just hold your blade in place while you glue it. You can also leave this in if you'd like to, or you can take it out once you've done your gluing. It's up to you. I would leave it in just for security purposes, but again, DIY kit, you guys do what you feel is best. One thing that I would recommend for anyone that has gotten the DIY kit for Inosuke, you will notice that these edges are a bit sharp, so I would definitely go with some sandpaper and soften up these edges a little bit, especially at the tips of the teeth. Just round those off. That'll help your prop be a little bit more con-friendly, and it will avoid any injuries to yourself as well. That's pretty much it, so we'll just move on to the next part of our video. Okay, and the last thing I'll cover on this tutorial is how to put together the handle for the secondary option, which is the button configuration, as opposed to the remote control one that doesn't have any buttons here. It's just a receiver and you change it wirelessly with a controller. The one real downside to this, I've learned by going to conventions and meeting people who have bought my kit and have the same thing, they can also change each other's lights or my lights, because these are manufactured in China and they all operate on the same frequency, so they can affect each other. This was a solution that I came up with so that that's not an issue. Also, it makes it so that you don't have to hold a secondary device. All of your options are right here on the handle. Okay, so if you do choose this option, your cord will be pretty lengthy to make it easy for you to work with. If you have any form of basic electronics knowledge, you can split this open here, desolder the positive and negative points, shorten your cord to however much you want to, and then resolder together and re-sleeve this, which is exactly what I've done here. The shorter you make it, the more difficult it is to do this process that I'm about to show you guys now, which is kind of like sliding it into place, but it's not impossible. Okay, so I'm gonna go controller side first, and I'm going to try to feel for it on the inside. Alright, once I do, I'm going to try to place my finger underneath it and prop it up while I push the cord in until it pops out of here, and just kind of drag that into place. So a good length is to leave at least the USB cord showing. So if you are reducing the length of your cord, keep that in mind. You want at least the tip of your USB cord to kind of hang off of the outside of the handle. Now that this is done, so again with this, same as the example before, you want to assemble everything first, and then this will be the last piece that you do. So no different here. What I'm going to do is grab my piece and I'm going to slide it in. Okay. Now that my guard is securely attached to my blade, what I'm going to do is put the glue on the inside of the guard here, right along the edges, so that once I put the handle on it, they glue to each other. Okay. Make sure you get it on all of the surfaces. Now with that done, I'm going to go ahead and bring my handle sideways. I'm going to connect my pins to my controller. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and slide that back into place, being super careful not to break anything at this point. I'm going to go ahead and hold on to that for the next 5 minutes. One good way to make sure that your glue has dried completely is if the surface that you put it on is actually hard, then you know that it's been out for the same amount of time as your part that's being glued. Okay. I didn't put any hot glue underneath this because it doesn't move that much, and I'm going to cover it with a thin wrapping. But as you guys can see, here's my button. I press it and my blade turns on. I have all of my demon details here. Now this option will be available for all of the DIY kits, not just this Scissor 7 version. And as far as the operation of the remote, it's fairly simple. It's not as intuitive as the radio frequency remote control, but still simple nonetheless. So you have 3 buttons. The middle one is to turn it on. As you can see, it's turned on. And you can press the middle one up to, I think, 7 or 8 times. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then this last one should go back down. All right, so those are your brightness levels. And then the button underneath, which says light, this is, let me bring the brightness up a little bit. This is what's going to control the colors of your blade. So light controls, it cycles through the colors. I believe it gives you about 8 or 16 colors to cycle through. And then there's mode, the top button that you press, and that one cycles through the mode. So this is kind of like a party mode in and of itself. This is a flashing mode. In the flashing mode, you can press the middle button to increase the speed. So here, as you can see, it's going a little slower. I press the speed again, it's going even slower, so on and so forth. Let's get out of this flashing mode into something else. Alright, so this is like a fade mode. Right now it's going pretty slow, so I can go ahead and press my speed button. Yep, same thing, up to 7 times, and as you can see, it goes a lot faster now. So with different combinations of different modes and different colors, I think you get up to 64 different combos with this, which is fairly similar to what the remote control has as well. Just did a little bit of hot glue here, and like every other inch or so put some glue to hold it down nice and proper. Have a nice cover for our sword. So one more thing I wanted to go over. If you look at the 3 different blades that I have here, clearly the Zenitsu version has a much thicker dive towards the center of the blade with the masking vinyl. This is a little thinner, albeit about half the size of this, and this is super thin, barely visible. The thinner you make your masking vinyl around your lights, the harder it's going to be to glue it to the blade, but it's not impossible. So with this, I ended up using contact cement, tracing on the blade where the tape meets up, putting contact cement on both sides and folding it over. You could potentially do this with Gorilla Glue as well. Just put some glue on your plastic, fold it over, hold it there, make sure not to glue your fingers, obviously, so on and so forth. And that's pretty much it for this one, guys. So hopefully this was useful, or at least it fixed the issue with the first video that a lot of people complain about with the wire not fitting. But here are our results. I can change my colors right on my blade. Okay, and this is the other option, obviously, where we change the colors with the remote. And all of them using different types of etching methods that you now know. Alright, so this has been Cass from GiveWave Studios, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.